Topping today's news, an update on the sale of the Grand Lucayan. Activists respond to the government's 14-day notice to vacate Crown land and a traffic fatality on Abaco. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jarino Saunders, and this is your JCN Evening News. Thanks for joining us. Following last week's announcement by the National Security Minister Wayne Munroe that people occupying Crown land in southwestern New Providence, especially in the area of the old Carmichael Road well fields, would have 14 days to vacate the land or face legal consequences. Lincoln Bain, leader of the Coalition of Independents and local activists, is speaking out, saying that such action by the government would be a gross violation of human rights and an overall injustice to the Bahamian people.
The farmers in the area of the Crown land that used to be the well fields were flabbergasted by the response of the government. Never before has the Prime Minister used military force against the Bahamian people in this country. We don't understand the need to send persons back there with guns and heavy, armored vehicles, tanks, or whatever you want to call them, to deal with their very own Bahamian people when there was no threat at all. We think that is actually unheard of, despicable, and a serious violation of human rights that we're going to be getting in touch with the UN over.
As for the Crown land, Bain says that the group of farmers that he is speaking for have went about their occupation of the land the right way. He says they went through the proper channels and have gotten the necessary approvals, and he vehemently rejects the assertion that they are trespassers.
In terms of the Crown land, we will say that, there's always a call for people to do things properly. Well, that includes the government. In terms of the people, they have done it right. They have applied to the government, all of them. And in their applications, they have informed the government that they were present on the land and everything that they were doing on the land. They informed the government. They told them how much money they spent on the land. And I can tell you that I did that myself. And so we're not trespassers. And we take offense in the media keep repeating whatever the government says without doing any research by just saying that we're criminal trespassers because the government says it. The government has been wrong and lost many cases.
Bain further contends that for years, the government has done nothing about illegal migrants squatting on private and public-owned land. And now he says their directed actions toward what he calls organic Bahamians is nothing more than harassment.
I mean, this is embarrassing on behalf of the government. And we think that they should take a step back because we're going to be there on the 14th. We're going to be there waiting for them on the 14th day. And we're going to stand our grounds. They're going to have to drag our cold, dead Bahamian bodies from our land. This is a cause for which I am willing to not only be jailed, but it's a cause for which I am willing to die. And it seems like that is what the minister is threatening by saying that they are serious and bringing all these guns and machinery and having a military deal with it instead of the police. But we are willing to die, and I'm willing for my blood to be in that dirt and bear witness against the evil that they're doing to the Bahamian people. Because we cannot understand why all this heavy-handedness against organic Bahamian citizens, and you're not touching people actually breaking the law on the shanty towns.
Today marks the 8th day since National Security Minister Wayne Munroe promised to take action in 14 days. According to Mr. Munroe, Bain and company must vacate now occupied land by Thursday, June 28th. Following the discovery of a family living on Crown land in the Carmichael Road area, Social Services has been made aware of those people living in makeshift homes on board yellow school buses. National Security Minister Wayne Munroe and officials of the newly formed Bahamas Wildlife Enforcement Network, or Bain, while touring the deforested areas last Friday, made the discovery, and according to Minister Munroe, Social Services has been advised.
It will be for them to seek social service assistance. You cannot force people to get help. It will be available. If they take it up, they take it up. If they do not take it up, they will not take it up. But they, like all other persons trespassing, will have to move.
The minister says that there were a number of sites that were concerned for investigation. He added that the Royal Bahamas Defense Force is the authority responsible for creating the plan of evacuation for people living illegally on Crown land. Meanwhile, Minister Monroe admitted that the Bahamas has failed to enforce environmental laws across a number of areas. However, the minister said the establishment of the Bahamas Wildlife Enforcement Network will rectify the issue, adding that the visit to the Florida Fish and Wildlife was for the purposes of training.
There are a number of sites that were the subject of intelligence. Another 2 sites in New Providence, sites in Andros, Abaco, and Grand Bahama. I'll await advice from the professionals as to how we execute, when we execute. But it would be wise for people not to be there when we come to execute.
Minister of Tourism and Investments and Aviation, Acting Prime Minister Chester Cooper, updating the media on major investments here in the Bahamas, including the finalization of the sale of the Grand Lucayan Resort. With more details on where the government is at with that investment, we go to Akil Campbell.
Negotiations for the finalization of the sale of the Grand Lucayan Resort over on Freeport, Grand Bahama are progressing very well, and that's according to Minister of Tourism, Investments and Aviation, Acting Prime Minister Chester Cooper. Speaking with reporters just before the weekly cabinet meeting today, Acting Prime Minister Cooper says he feels positive about closing the $100 million deal.
The proposed buyer, are on the ground in Grand Bahama. They've been there consistently. We've met on a few occasions since we made the announcement. We have another meeting next week. We're working through the agreements, including the heads of agreement and the definitive purchase agreement. We expect that those will go for review to the Attorney General's office sometime this week.
Last month, it was announced that Electra America Hospitality Group made a $100 million purchase offer for the Grand Lucayan Resort. At the time, Minister Cooper said the agreement is subject to a 60-day due diligence period, expecting for the agreement to officially close no later than 120 days. At the time, Minister Cooper said the agreement is subject to a 60-day due diligence period, expecting for the agreement to officially close no later than 120 days. According to the minister, Electra has also committed to some $300 million in renovation and construction to rebuild the Grand Lucayan into an environmentally sustainable luxury resort. Now, according to Acting Prime Minister Cooper, more will be disclosed on the deal following a meeting with the proposed buyers of the resort next week. Meanwhile, when asked about the possibility of Mediterranean Shipping Company acquiring Global Ports Holding, the acting Prime Minister says though he has read of reports of MSC's interest, currently there has been no application for the purchase of the port.
Our government took the position when we did an RFP for this port development that we did not wish for any one cruise line or combination of cruise lines for that matter to own and operate this port. That is still the position of our government, and if there's an application, we'll consider it appropriately.
Last week, it was reported that MSC made an approach to acquire 100% of Global Ports Holding, the company that won the bidding process initiated by the former Minnis administration for a 25-year lease to develop Nassau's cruise port. The $300 million transformation is set to be complete in early 2023. For JCN News, I'm Cale Campbell.
Thanks, Cale. With the already high gas prices at the pumps that is seemingly rising daily, Acting Prime Minister Chester Cooper says the government expects gas and fuel prices to continue to increase for the foreseeable future. And his advice to consumers is to conserve energy. However, he notes that the government has put measures in the budget to reduce the cost of living.
Our government has put in place significant measures in the budget to reduce the cost of living. And we hope that those changes that we've made in our policies will trickle to the pockets directly of the Bahamian people. We're seeing it at the cash register already. We've seen the announcements by major grocery store chains that they are putting in place the changes and causing prices to go down as a result of our change in policy. We promise relief to the Bahamian people, and we're delighted that they're seeing it at the cash register.
Current gas prices here in the capital now average just over $7, with Shell at $6.97 per gallon, 1 cent lower than Rubis, which is $6.98 per gallon. Esso charging ahead with their gas price at $7.39 per gallon. While taking a brief trip home to spend Father's Day with his family, the Bahamas ambassador to the United States, Wendell Jones, appeared as a guest on Love 97's radio talk show On Point with host Godfrey Eneas. The ambassador shared more details on the push by the Prime Minister Philip Davis, to have the developed world do more to assist small island states in the fight against global warming. We hear more in this next report. While on the popular talk show On Point with host Godfrey Eneas on Monday, Ambassador to the United States Wendell Jones, who was a part of the Bahamas delegation to the Summit of the Americas in Los Angeles, shared more details on Prime Minister Philip Davis's push to have developed nations do more to assist small island states like the Bahamas in the fight against climate change. From an economic standpoint, he said, Prime Minister Davis is also seeking to have the developed nations adjust the current criteria for borrowing and for grading the GDP of small island states, often impacted by the effects of global warming with more frequent hurricanes and increasing tornadic activity.
With respect to financing, they have to have a new arrangement with respect to financing and cannot look at our GDP and exclude us from concessionary financing. We in the Bahamas, we have been spending a whole lot of money over a short period of time. And he made the point that over the last decade, we've had about 11 hurricanes, and that our debt, our national debt, is what it is because of hurricanes. Yeah. When we had Matthew, the government had to borrow in excess of $500 million. I think it was $600 million. In Dorian, it was even more than that.
Mr. Jones reiterated the points that Prime Minister Davis has been making, that developed countries like the United States are largely the cause for global warming and must do more to help the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Mr. Jones says the Bahamas is carrying the ball for the Caribbean in this regard. Meanwhile, he sought to dispel the notion that the Prime Minister is competing with the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, who has also been a very strong advocate against climate change.
And I saw an article in one of the dailies the other day comparing Prime Minister Davis with Mayor Mottley in Barbados. And the Prime Minister is not running a competition with Mayor Mottley. The Prime Minister is there promoting the interests of the Bahamas and ensuring that the case of the Bahamas is properly made. And so he's not going up seeking any particular brownie points. He's not speaking because he can speak. There's a whole lot of leaders go up there with a lot of bombast and theatrics. He's not into theatrics. He's there outlaying the fact.
Ambassador Jones was also candid as he spoke about the poor condition of the Bahamas Embassy and some of the decisions he made in the best interest of the Bahamas.
When I went to Washington, was to order that they take down the flag of the Bahamas on the old Chancery building, which was tattered. And I am there to protect the interests and the image of the Bahamas. I said to an officer, this doesn't represent the Bahamas, our brand. I'm not going to allow a torn or tattered flag to be flown on that embassy building that we are not utilizing. So please, take it down. We took the brass plate off the wall, and the flag, we took it down until the building is properly renovated.
Ambassador Jones informed that there are funds in the government's budget to carry out the necessary repairs to the Bahamas Chancery in Washington, and once those repairs are completed and the office occupied, the Bahamian flag will fly proudly once again. We'll take a break here, and we'll be right back with more news after these commercials.